what can we say about Mayfield? How about this? 337 yards and 3 touchdowns. First quarterback in Bucs postseason history with those numbers.
That's a heat check right there. All-out pressure, has a plan for it, gives this guy Chris Godwin a chance.
A team that was 10-1 and their fan base with bags over their head. It was bad for the Eagles. Here's Hurts afterwards.
I think for us this year, I just don't think we've played well enough. We played well enough. The identity, the consistency, the execution for us, the turnovers, everything, all of those come into play when you're talking about having an opportunity to win championships. You know, it's something that something we have to be able to learn from. You know, something we have to be able to learn from.
The 23-point loss could have been much bigger. Is the second largest playoff loss in Eagles franchise history. The issues, they're everywhere. How about 0 for 11 on 3rd and 4th downs, becoming the first team to fail to convert a 3rd or 4th down in a playoff game since the Bills in the 1988 AFC Championship. And Jalen Hurts, despite that dislocated finger, he still passed the ball, limited to 1 rushing attempt after he averaged 9 a game during the regular season. We'll get to Marcus in a moment. Dan, though, the definition of insanity is doing something over and over and over again, but expecting different results. What did you see from this offense?
A terrible plan for pressure. We talked about it on NFL Live yesterday. This game was going to come down to Philadelphia offensively, who's been awful dealing with the blitz. Will you have a plan to execute against a team that does it incredibly well in Tampa Bay? This is going to start with Kenneth Gainwell, the back outside. If you've ever watched this show, when you put a back outside and he is matched by Levante David, you should know exactly what's happening. It is man-to-man coverage. Step number 2 is in this situation, Tampa Bay loves to play man coverage and pressure you. So he brings the back in, okay? They're trying to figure information out. Levante matches him. They know it's man. Second thing is, because you're playing Tampa Bay, you should be expecting the blitz. Now, this is what happens. Look what Jalen does. He goes to his helmet right now. They've called 2 plays in the huddle. He's going, hey, alert, alert, check, check, check. We are going to go to the next play. Why? Because Tampa Bay has nobody in the deep middle, and they are playing man-to-man coverage across the board. Press man, press man, press man. Everybody else is going to be a blitzer. Okay, so you know they're going to play a guy versus a guy. Let's go hurt them. Here's my issue with it. They have a plan for it. It's just the plan is terrible. What they do is, instead of trying to attack it, and the way to attack it would be to try to take a Dallas Goedert to pick and go to the flat right now, or potentially go Goedert up and run out block and then a screen. That's how you try to hurt it. All they do is they run everybody vertical. Here's my issue next step with this. There's one person who's playing off coverage. Jalen Hurts decides to throw it to the one person who's playing off coverage. Everybody else is running a vertical route, which again, it was an awful play in this situation. And the one person you shouldn't throw it to is the guy playing off coverage. 3rd and 2, awful situation plan-wise for the Philadelphia Eagles. 3rd and 7, a little bit later in the game. They're going to get to this bunch concept. They're going to motion out. Everybody at home. 3rd down. What are the Bucs going to do? They're going to play zero coverage, all-out pressure. Couple tells. You have everybody on the secondary standing in a straight line. Everybody else is going to be a pressure person. What's our plan for it? This is an atrocious play call in this situation. They're going to run everybody on a what we call hook route. Couple things stand out. As Jalen Hurts has to go throw this football because they have one more blitzer, this is what I see. Philadelphia Eagle looking downfield. Philadelphia Eagle looking downfield. Philadelphia Eagle looking downfield. And what I see in return is Tampa Bay Buccaneer looking at the quarterback. Tampa Bay Buccaneer looking at the quarterback. Tampa Bay Buccaneer looking at the quarterback. How is the offense looking opposite of the quarterback and the defense staring at the quarterback, and there's no plan? They run hooks. Everybody hooks up to the quarterback. That is not a good play for this. Last part is this. Jamel Dean's one of the squattiest corners in football. He sits and waits. Every defensive back in this situation sits and waits. Why? Because they know that the blitzers force the ball out of the hands of the quarterback. What you should do is double move Devontae Smith on a nosy corner for a touchdown, but it's covered because of the poor plan. That's really what happened last night, and that's been the story for this offense for realistically 10 weeks. Poor plan and no desire to hurt the defense when they try to dictate to you. And that's really the crux of one of the reasons why this football team, at least offensively, completely fell apart.
And they knew the blitz was coming, Marcus.
Dan,
they knew. Yeah.
So First of all, Kev, as being a Cowboy fan and you're an Eagle fan, welcome to Cancun, brother. We're about to have a great summer. We're gonna watch some football the rest of the way. Here's the thing, Dan, because when I was talking earlier to our producer, it was a plan for pressure, and all of them was go balls. It was the craziest thing I've ever seen. But it's almost who they are. That, like, we've been trying to figure out, like, what's this team identity? How are they going to move forward and get better? And the time that they should have spent knowing that I've known that Todd Bowles was going to blitz before this season started and last season. When you get in these critical down situations, that's what he does. And for you to come into this game and have absolutely no plan is more of an indictment on coaching. That is why we talking about Nick Sirianni's job. Like we on this show, I love the fact that you are the best in the game at breaking film down and showing people why we talk about things, whether good or bad. That's coaching, America. That is exactly what a coach is supposed to do. That is the definition of not putting your players in a position to be successful. And then we get back to the identity part, which is all I could think about last night. The defensive line made a couple plays. They pressured Baker Mayfield. But there was no effort, offensively or defensively. You asking the offensive line that's big and physical to drop back and pass protect 90% of the game. And you think that is the best course for a team that we've seen be dominant, doing the opposite of what they did last night. The Philadelphia Eagles of last year would have put 50 on Tampa Bay this time last year because of what they would have dictated and how they ran offense, and even earlier this year, how they ran offense. Now, I don't know if Jalen Finger affected you from doing an RPO or having some semblance of a threat of him running the football. It blew my mind, bro. It blew my mind. And all I could think about was they pay people to do this. They pay people to do this and prepare for football games. It was horrid.
Let me talk about the offense just for a second more. Jalen Hurts was fine. I actually thought Jalen Hurts played pretty darn well given what they asked him to do. It was just such a broken offensive plan. That is not something or somebody that needs to get fixed. They also wasted a great performance by Devontae Smith. Marcus, I want to talk to you about the defense, okay? You're a Philadelphia Eagles fan. We know that, right?
Yes.
I think Tampa should have scored 50. Tampa should have scored 50. If they caught the football,
Mike Evans
they could have scored 50. If you ask me to define this game, it's as bad schematically and execution-wise at defensive tape that I've seen this year. And I've watched every single snap from every single team in football. The plan of putting defensive linemen in situations to play well, awful. The coverage leverage, awful. The tackling effort, awful. The communication on the back end, awful. I do believe this defense is too talented to have played this well. Marcus, I want to ask you this, though, because I don't want to say something that I'm not in a position to say. Tackling, how much is that of that is just effort? Like, what percentage of tackling as a defensive guy is just, effort?
Well, that's why I'm your brother, because I say things that people don't want to say. They shut it down. But they shut it down earlier in the year. Like, this defensive team, bro, there was no edge to the way that they played football the last 7 weeks, right? And you looking at a team in Philly who we had the expectations of being the bullies on the block based on what they told us last year and what we thought they would be coming into the season. And we looked at this team every week and said, they'll get it going. They'll figure it out. They didn't figure it out schematically. They made a change of the defensive coordinator. And I don't like allocating the word quit to a team or a player. And I don't like calling players soft. Last night, though, Philly looked like they were playing an exhibition game in the preseason as opposed to trying to take one step further and going into the playoffs. And that was what was most disappointing, man.
So Sean Desai gets demoted. That's a Nick Sirianni decision. Matt Patricia gets bumped up. And when you saw how this team played, they just didn't want to play for the coaching staff, the body language. We won't say the word quit. They just didn't want to play for each other. There was a lot of individual. Nothing about group
Everybody
tackling.
got eyes.
It was awful. Much more coming up on this Eagles team, including an update on Nick Sirianni and his status and what we can expect in a very emotional week here in Philadelphia. You talk about emotions, boy, there's a lot in the fan base that was emotional after the game because that guy, the Philly legend, Jason Kelce, shedding some tears, talking to Stoutland. On the sidelines today, league sources have told Adam Schefter that the 36-year-old Kelce told teammates after the game that he's retiring following a 13-year NFL career, all with the Eagles. Build him a statue, a sixth-round pick in 2011. Kelce was named as a first-team All-Pro 6 times. He's one of 5 centers to be a first-team All-Pro at least 6 times. The other 4 are all in the Pro Football Hall of Fame. He will never, and trust me, he will never have to buy a drink in Philly or South Jersey in his lifetime, in his kids' lifetimes. Listen, what made, and Marcus, as a defensive guy, what made Jason Kelce great at his job? Because he was an undersized center. What made him so great?
Yeah. Everything, Kev. Look, I could wax poetic about Jason Kelce. The one thing as a defensive lineman you respect about offensive linemen is technique. And he was a technician to his core. The athleticism to be able to pull. Do you know what type of advantage is created when your center can pull and get on the edge and find linebackers? That's what made him great. The communication up front. The comfort of a young quarterback in Jalen Hurts, knowing that my big fella up front will make sure the protection is right. There are unseen things that Jason Kelce did throughout his career that we can talk about because we know what it takes to actually be good within that line of scrimmage and have all of those guys on the same page. But his technique, his ability to pull and gain space and get up on second levels of linebackers was as elite as he gets, and that's why he'll be in Canton.
Man, greatest parade speech of all time, too. He is one of us in Philadelphia, of course.